Howdy, and welcome to the Lost Rider podcast. It's an honor and privilege to address you in the capacity of an interviewer, reporter, and media member. Too many modern media outlets have forgone the integrity and responsibility required of credible information sources. What you will receive here are straightforward discussions with legislators, agency leaders, biologists, engineers, doctors, and countless other experts that have the answers to questions often circulated as kitchen table issues. The title Lost Rider may be thought of literally as well as in the metaphorical sense. While there has been the instance that I was momentarily a little turned around at night in a wilderness area, the idea of being a lost rider in life, well, that fits most folks at some time. These renderings are coming to you in the form of the 25-year-old radio program, The News from the Camp House. It still airs every Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m. Central Time on KULM 98.3 FM out of Columbus, Texas. The original intent was to relate outdoor topics to the general public. Immediately, it was found that all issues are relatable to the outdoors and that people are people. They all play a role and they all have a vested interest. It's this program's desire to answer common questions about how the world works, how it will operate in the future, and what's the holdup. So please listen, enjoy, and never hesitate to contact us with more questions and feedback. Good morning and welcome to this weekend's edition of the News from the Camp House, the listening post of the Texas Sportsman Association. This is Herman Brune, and this weekend's edition is also brought to us by Shaw's Bend Social Club, country club for folks who don't have a country club. And you can also find these programs now on thelostriderpodcast.com. You can go to that website, thelostriderpodcast.com. You can find these programs. You can also go on the Lost Rider YouTube channel. And all this stuff shows up now. Instead of having to get up at 6:30 on Saturday morning, you can go listen to whatever you want to listen to on the internet anytime you want. All right, tell you what, we got a special guest with us this weekend. Gentleman with the CCA, the Coastal Conservation Association. Shane, how do you pronounce your last name?
That's Shane Bonnet.
Shane Bonnet, okay.
B-O-N-N-O-T.
All right, and would you please, what is your exact position with the CCA?
I'm the advocacy director, so I deal a lot with fisheries policy and communications with our membership, communications with elected officials, and just work sort of behind the scenes to ensure that we have effective rules, regulations, and policies to conserve, promote, and enhance the coast of Texas and our fisheries and habitat.
Okay, all right. Do you know how many members CCA has nowadays?
It varies year to year depending on how many people sign up for our membership drive, which is our Star State Texas Anglers Rodeos, our Star Tournament. That's the tagged redfish tournament that goes on every year from Memorial Day through Labor Day. And it varies, but right now we're hovering around 60,000 members.
Okay. All right.
And just in Texas. Now we're a national organization, so we have other states that have their own members as well. But Texas holds about 55 to 60,000.
Okay. It's pretty large influence of people that people generally, when it comes to the Texas Gulf Coast, you're going to get your information from CCA and or probably Parks and Wildlife. That's a fair statement, isn't it?
When it comes to the coastal resources and specifically things that relate to recreational angling, we're a group of recreational fishermen, and so when it comes to that territory, it's gonna information comes from us, and the management of the fisheries information comes from Parks and Wildlife.
Okay. All right. So this is your major source. All right. Did you spend a lot of time in Austin during the session?
I spend more time in Austin than I would like to, but not as much as some of my other conservation fellows. But yes, during session, there's a fair amount of time up in Austin and visiting with elected officials and attending hearings, and just again trying to make sure we have effective policy for really good fishing and really good coastal resources. And a lot of stuff going on these days seems to revolve around the oyster fishery and good policy for sustainability in that fishery, which is also a very important habitat.
Absolutely. No, it's there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot to keep up with on the Texas Gulf Coast, and just pertaining to whichever bay you happen to be attached to or close to. It seems like everybody's got a particular issue that they're latched in on.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, one of the things, now we were visiting, and one of the things we were talking about were some of these desal plants that are all in the news now. And, we always get mixed up on this discharge deal. And that's what everybody's concerned about. What happens to the discharge? Well, we seem like once the seawater desal plant at Port Aransas, once everybody decided, well, we're going to go to deep water discharge with that, and there's a technological way of doing it. It's not just as simple as it sounds, but there's a proper way of doing that. And once that was established as being the way to managing that, everyone was able to come to agree that okay, yeah, let's go forward with this. And it's a correct statement to say that y'all and Parks and Wildlife and everybody along the Texas Gulf Coast agreed, okay, this is the way to manage this, correct?
Well, I don't want to speak for any other group, and of course, Parks and Wildlife as an agency, they can't really, they can offer recommendations, but they can't tell another agency, which would be the TCEQ when it comes to these permits. They can't tell them that they oppose or they're in support of a specific permit. They just sort of provide recommendations that, to be honest, really the other state agencies don't necessarily have to adhere to. But I'll speak for CCA.
Yes.
We developed a policy that states that. Oh,
you all right?
Hang on, Herman.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead.
I dropped the phone. We developed a policy that states that we are in opposition to any discharge going into inshore waters.
Right.
And that if you're doing surface water desal, surface water seawater, then that intake and discharge need to be offshore. And so that's our position on the surface water. And then the other desal process that's being floated out there involves groundwater.
Yes.
So pumping up brackish water out of the ground, which varies in salinity, but typically it's in the range of 5 to 15 parts per thousand. Just for your listeners, seawater is about 34, 35 parts per thousand. So the brackish water is not as salty as seawater. But again, we don't want that discharge going into the bay systems. We think that if you're pumping it up out of the ground, then you need to inject that salty discharge back into the ground and not into our bays and ecosystems. So that's our policy. I know other groups have a similar policy. Other conservation groups have a similar stance. And so as these permits are come across the wire for comment and for public engagement, we'll ensure that those permittees understand our position. Hopefully the TCEQ listens and helps these applications and throughout the process and gets this discharge offshore.
All right, now I got a question. Okay, because this is where I get screwed up on this deal. All right, the brackish, when we're talking about desalinated and brackish aquifer, and if what you said now, the brackish water is 0.5 or something like that, parts per thousand, and that salt, and they desalinate it, they get the fresh water they want that they're going to use, and then they've got to do something with the discharge, and the discharge is going to be, discharge generally, is that not usually like 0.55?
So just to make sure we're clear on that we're talking the same terms, I'm talking in parts per thousand.
Right.
Some of the permits may have ppm or parts per million or milligrams per liter. And so I'm just going to keep talking in parts per thousand. So again, salt water, ocean water is 34 ppt or parts per thousand. The brackish water that they're pumping up out of the ground is going to vary, but it could be 3 to 5 parts per thousand, or it could be 10 to 15. It just depends on that aquifer.
Right.
When they go through that desal, reverse osmosis process, they pull out the fresh water and concentrate the salts.
Right.
And so with the brackish facility, that discharge that should be going back into the ground, but again, some people are trying to release it into the bays. It's going to vary. It's going to be anywhere from, could be 10 parts per thousand, it could be 25. We just don't know until these plants become operational.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So just take, for example, the one that was proposed by the South Texas Water Authority.
Right.
They're proposing a brackish water desal facility. Their original plan was to release the water and let it go into Baffin Bay, which is a very, very salty, hypersaline bay.
Right.
The water that they would be putting in is quite a bit less salty than the ambient salinity of the bay system.
Okay.
And there were concerns from that community down there about how that could affect the trout fishery, how it could affect their serpulid reefs, which are the encrusting worms that live in Baffin Bay and that have formed the rocks over centuries. So they're worried about how it could affect their habitat. And there was enough public opposition that the South Texas Water Authority pivoted and decided, hey, we think the best practice, because we don't exactly know what the impacts could be to the bay system, we're going to go ahead and have a resolution that states that we're putting this water back into the ground. And so that was a case in where there was a lot of public opposition to the original plan, and they listened to the anglers and to the people in the local community, and they're doing what I think most people feel is the right thing to do, which is inject that water back into the ground.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's take, everybody remember that. Hang on to that thought. We're going to take a quick break, and thank the folks who let us come on here every Saturday morning. We'll be right back. Thank goodness for all the great sponsors we have here at News from the Camp House. HEB Food Stores. That's Stephen Tice at HEB. He helps me. He helps the community. He's a great man. I'm so thankful HEB loosened him up, lets him go around and sponsor a few things. HEB's got all your food needs. It's the greatest food store we got here in Columbus. Thank goodness for HEB. First State Bank. You go over to the First State Bank, they'll take care of all your loans, all your deposits, your savings, anything you need. Bunch of great hometown people over there. You got Celia Tobias, John Pollock. Everybody over there is looking out for you. Miss Barbara Barta. It's a great bunch of folks at the First State Bank is also sponsoring News from the Camp House. First State Bank takes care of all my business. Baumgart Agency, Susan Baumgart at the Baumgart Agencies, her and Germania. She told me to plug Germania. Germania is an insurance that she likes to everybody to know about. The Baumgart Agencies. Miss Susan and I are classmates, being classmates. She got me out of high school, sat right beside her, put us in alphabetical order where I could copy. And Susan Baumgart over at the Baumgart Agency taking care of all your insurance needs. Lyco Realty Lyco Realty, one of the original sponsors of News from the Camp House. Lyco Realty, the oldest real estate company in the county, and for the last 3 years voted the favorite realtor in the county. Lyco Realty, that's Miss Kimberly Johnson. That's Crockett's granddaughter. More kinfolks and classmates and great people from Colorado County. People from Colorado County helping people from Colorado County. That's great. Oh, thank goodness for all these wonderful people come to me want to be sponsors for News from the Camp House. Good morning and welcome to the second half of this week's News from the Camp House, and or you may be listening to the Lost Rider Podcast.com. So anyway, all right, now we just finished the first half, and Shane laid it out. Shane is the, what do you call it, Advocacy
Director.
You're the lobbyist for CCA, right?
Man, I don't register as a lobbyist, and
okay.
so I'm not a lobbyist.
Okay, all right. But you spend time in Austin with your ear to the ground.
I do.
Okay, all right. So that's everybody got that straight. And Shane just explained to us in the first half of CCA's position on this Kingsville desal efforts. And why, CCA and everybody always want to reinject this discharge, what you get from the desalination process. Just put it down a reinjection well and don't mess with it. Now, when I interviewed the South Texas Water Authority, of course, they were a little hesitant to say what they wanted to do. They said, well, they wanted to explore all their options. And yes, they wanted to put it in the creek after they had treated it. Now, also part of the, I was reading everything I could get a hold of and talking to everybody, and I heard it both ways. I went back and looked after we talked. You and I visited a little bit, and then I went back and reread, and I've got both instances that I read where, some people were scared the discharge would be too salty. Other people read that the discharge would be too fresh, which is what you just told us, which was not what I understood. But the idea was that if you run it through a water treatment, you can make it be whatever you want it to be, whatever it needs to be. That's the technology that we're wondering about here, because that if you run this stuff through a treatment plant, even the deep water discharge, if you look at how the deep water discharge has been done in the past, it's not just pumped up and shot out in the Gulf. It goes through a little process of settling ponds and stuff until it gets pumped out there. So there is a process of how this goes. And that's what always concerns me, because the day is coming when you're not going to be able to just keep pumping this stuff into the ground. Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, well, what makes sense to me is locating desal facilities, ideally near a port, somewhere that you have close access to deep water,
mm-hmm.
and construct them on areas where they're scalable, to where you can increase capacity, and you're really not. The only thing that ultimately limits your increase in capacity is supply of power and the pipe size that you're able to utilize to get the intake and the discharge offshores. But so doing these one-off small plants scattered across the state,
mm-hmm.
And looking at them individually as to their potential impacts on the coastal ecosystem, I don't think is a smart way to do it, because you get the end result is, the old saying, a death by 1,000 cuts. We'll end up continually degrading the water quality that's going into our bay systems. I think
mm-hmm.
it makes a lot more sense to do offshore,
right,
and in spots where you can scale up production,
mm-hmm.
and have capacities of 100 to 500 million gallons per day,
right,
rather than brackish water plants that get you 3 million or 10 million gallons per day.
Yes. Okay. Well, that makes sense. I mean, instead of a bunch of little ones.
That's my approach to it.
All right. Okay. That makes sense too. Part of what makes me scratch my head is knowing, we've been watching this for 25 years on this radio show, and it's finally become affordable now, and we can see what's coming in the future. And it's what I told you, off the record, was that I already heard engineers talking about pumping up desal, pumping up frack water and cleaning it up and putting it back in the system. And so all this stuff's coming. The other thing that's coming, that the state agencies have their official statements, and then they can look at you and tell you off the record, look, this is what's going to happen. And you can't really say, okay, we don't know when it's going to happen, but you know that it's just like the power. What we say, if you got the power to do it, this is all good. Well, the seawater thing down there at Corpus right now, that power is going to come off the grid. But long term, I'll bet you whatever you want to bet, there's going to be a little reactor down there. There's going to be a little nuclear reactor sitting down there that's going to power that thing. I'll bet you anything you want to bet.
Well, I wouldn't take that bet because I agree with you. I think these plants are supposed to be firm yield supplies, and so they can go offline, but they don't want to go offline, and their customers, which is in large part going to end up being industry, they need the water continually. Mm-hmm. So it would make a lot more sense to, and these reactors you're talking about are becoming more and more commonplace, and I think economically justifiable. So I think you're right. I think
okay. All right.
Have their small pebble bed nuclear reactors nearby and operate off of that.
All right. Now, there's another point I want to hit too, right quick, because you said something that one day about water rights, and that even though we're going to add all this other water to the system, that the people who already have the water rights are not going to quit using what they got. I'm sitting here looking at this saying, this is going to take some of the strain off the system, but maybe not, huh?
I don't think so. I think it's just a part of the portfolio of future water supply in Texas. River authorities we've always advocated for environmental flows, and we're trying to still get more environmental flows to the bay system. So we have a tough time doing that.
Right.
And I just don't see these water authorities, river authorities, giving up any of their future coming out of these systems. I don't see it happening.
I look at it and I think, okay, if San Antonio and Austin start, San Antonio has a desal plant. Brownsville has a desal plant. Now, their desal plant was sold how many years ago with the idea that discharge was going to replace 1,000 or more acres of wetlands. And then once they did it, I think they just started reinjecting it too. But it was sold to us with that thing down in Brownsville. San Antonio's got one. It's supposed to, add to what they need. That is what they already get from the Edwards Aquifer. I'm looking at Austin, and the Colorado River down here by me is just dead. Now, it's terrible. It's horrible. It's just a drainage ditch with all kinds of nasty stuff growing in it. And it's just horrible. I've never seen anything so horrible in my life. I said, why aren't people in Austin with torches and pitchforks right now screaming about the way our river looks? And you don't see it. And it's if Austin had some relief, and of course they're not slowing down on growing, but if they had some relief, I can't help but think it wouldn't help our river, which in turn is freshwater inflow. Right?
Yeah, yes, and at the same time that water, there's no guarantee that water reaches the coast. I mean, the Lower Colorado River Authority has plans for at least, I think we may even spoke about it, 3 off-channel reservoirs.
Right.
Coming down the line, and then there's some talk about there's some major industry potentially moving into Matagorda County, new plants coming that have water needs, and so they're in discussions with that river authority on how they can get that water.
Yeah,
and the LNRA is also considering pumping up groundwater. So in theory you're right, but I'm just saying I'm a little pessimistic
skeptical
when it comes to my view of that water ever sustainably reaching the coast.
Yeah, it's worrisome. It's worrisome. Well, there's not enough coming down here to share at all. Now, it's pitiful. It's absolutely pitiful what our river looks like right now. And I look at this. I understand wholeheartedly. I'm all about technology. I think technology is going to come out and save the day. And I look at all this stuff from a theoretical point of view, that this ought to come out and work. Like I said, we've been following this for 25 years. And if they say they're going to start pumping out these reinjection wells of frack water and start putting that back in, which is what I sat in a meeting and heard them say, that's what's going to happen in the future, that we're going to need that water. We need to let people know, look, this is what they're talking about, and they have the technology to do it. It's also pertinent to point out that, there's been some screw-ups in this old world, so you got to hold their foot to the fire, and if that's what they say they're going to do, we got to make sure they do it right.
Yeah, I agree, and hopefully you're correct. Hopefully, that water gets all the way down the river system and reaches our bays, because our shrimp and our crabs and all of our larvae that recruit into the estuary, they need those freshwater inflows. That's part of that supports the habitat, that supports those fisheries. It's very important. Yep.
Shane, I appreciate you being with us this morning. I appreciate it. I got CCA's official word on the deal now.
You're welcome. Happy to do it. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Okay, just hang on just a second. Folks, I hope you enjoyed it this morning. Hope you learned something. Hope you got a little something out of all this. And now, this weekend's edition was also brought to us by the Shaw's Men Social Club, country club for folks who don't have a country club. Go out, have a good weekend, have a lot of fun, be safe, and y'all just remember, pretty much any day is sure a good day to be out in the woods.